But then all of a sudden, my brother Matt began to be very profitable. He was $1 million producer that year, one technician alone. He was just giving the customer choice. Decision fatigue is a real thing, and we all have it. You want it to be simple for the eye to glance, no matter your trade, no matter what you're in.
We saw the constraints, we solved it. Let's increase the closing percentage, increase that, raise the credibility, raise the value as high as possible.
What kind of company do you want to be? What is your vision? What is your strategy? Do you want to grow this year? Do you not? You actually have to price as the company that you want to be. Your company is different. It's over time, not overnight. We all want business to be overnight. Starbucks said it takes 20 years to become an overnight success. Starting out as an entrepreneur, I used to strongly believe that you have to say yes to opportunity. Let's start saying no to things and simplify instead of being all things for all people. What do we really do well? And let's maximize that.
Welcome back to the Better Than Rich Show. I am your host today, Mike Abramowitz. If you've been following along with season 4, as we are spotlighting and highlighting experts and professionals in the home service space, really excited about this conversation. Danielle Putnam, welcome to the Better Than Rich Show podcast.
Hey, Mike, thanks so much. I'm really excited to be here. I love that it's Friday morning. You're up and at it. You already had yoga. You're ready. I'm ready. We're live. This is really fun. Thanks.
One of my favorite episodes so far in season 4 has been the gentleman who introduced and connected us, which is Phil Risher. So I went back and listened to your conversation with Phil on his podcast on Flash Consulting. And you were able to share your origin story about how, as a little girl, you went with your dad to work with your siblings, starting at 7 years old. Then he grew from like the HVAC into the electrical into the big 3 with plumbing. And you did that all the way through your first year of college. What is the most memorable story that you could lead off with as a younger girl in the trades that you remember most, that was a foundational moment for you where you saw admiration for what you're actually representing?
Mike, people remember high and low emotions as their earlier memories in life. I wouldn't have been 7 at the time. I was probably more like 12. But the memory that stands in my mind is it was a Saturday morning. My dad had an old work truck at the time, and one of my girlfriends was going to come over for the day to play. So my dad drives me to pick up my girlfriend, and then we had to swing by a service call on the way back. It wasn't just a service call, it was a big project. And so we live in a manufacturing town here in Dalton, Georgia. This is the carpet capital of the world. There's a lot of large manufacturers, Shaw, Mohawk, engineered floors here. There was one of the owners of one of these big companies who had a beautiful home in town, and we were doing a job there. And so we swing by, and my dad's checking on the workers. And so my friend and I stayed in the truck, and the children came outside and began to make fun of us. I don't know why, but they were teasing us. And I remember that feeling of they were kind of like, oh, we're better than you. And the nanny came out and got onto them, brought them all inside, scolded them, and then sent them back out and made them apologize to us. As a foundational story, I remember feeling like other people don't think that we're as good as them because we're in the trades. And that my whole life has been something that I've wanted to help our industry overcome because it drives me crazy. I felt that and I hated that. And it's the farthest thing from the truth. So wait a minute, we're here solving the problems that you can't solve, and we're making your life better, and you're going to mock us? That's my opening story of that. That was very pivotal for future, right? Of why am I still in the trades today? How can I contribute?
I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that. And that's why I wanted to start there, because I know for myself, going up in high school, you go to college, you go to the trades, you go to the military. Maybe there was a fourth is like prison in some cases. So these are like the 4 options. And a lot of times the kids that were gravitating towards like the military and the trade, this is going back like early 2000s, it was like those that couldn't get into college. So the stigma for me, like seeing my dad work in the slums of Trenton and then seeing these kids, these are the only options. If college and academia is not for me, I guess I'll settle into trades or military because I don't want to go to prison.
Well, yeah, but I love now the trades are really pushing back. So this
Big
week,
time.
well, so just this week, I got a Facebook message from somebody that says, call me. So I called, and it was my husband's aunt who said, Danielle, my granddaughter's boyfriend needs a job and wants to get into HVAC. Can you hire him? And I was like, does he have any experience? Well, he was in retail. So can you hire? No, I'm not going to hire him. But my brother, who's a contractor, I said, it is the heat of summer. It is 100 degrees. If he actually is a decent worker, it's not hard to get a job right now. I texted my brother, who has a wonderful company here in Dalton, Georgia. And I said, my husband's aunt's granddaughter's boyfriend wants to get into HVAC. Are you hiring? And he's like, he doesn't get to me. He can go to the office and fill out an application and we'll take a look at it. Thank you. Exactly. So you can actually try at the front lines.
Is this all-star brother that was working with your dad's company?
This is my oldest brother who was working in my dad's business and was leading the install crews. My dad eventually sold the whole company to him. And so Dallas now has grown it as an expert in the indoor air quality space.
I went to my first Northeast Florida Builders Association, NEFBA, and it was a huge meeting. It was like 100 people there. And they have 600 students that are starting in this apprenticeship program, 50% of them under 21. I was thrilled to hear this because I spent 20 years in Cutco training over 5,000 young people. So I love helping young people. So when I heard your story about you're talking to the girls at the gym and, they're like, oh, economy, this and that. And you're like, nuh-uh, you can make what you want. So who is training these young people to be good at the trades, right? If they don't have experience, so who's training them? And then how could someone replicate that success story in their company today or in the future? Because there's not like a union really right now to train these guys. We have Ryan Englund coming on the podcast. He has the book Hire Better People Faster, but it's like there's a big concern that these kids don't want to work. It's hard to find really good talent. And, what if I train them so well that they leave me and then I'm left high and dry doing it all over again?
Yeah, the short and the sweet is what we found as some of the most successful contractors right now. They really do grow their own. And so they go into whether the high schools or the local trade schools or the colleges. They, of course, do fairs and career fairs and stuff like that. They find people that are willing to work. They've got their own training programs at their company instead of waiting for somebody to come out of a trained technical school. They are doing their own training programs in-house, and they're finding a lot of success in that. And I know not everybody can do that, but there's so many very successful, awesome contractors right now that are saying, hey, we have to change the tides here, and we're going to be a part of that change. And to your point, yeah, they might leave and they might go somewhere else, but they recognize the need and the whole of needing quality talent in the trades. And so they're just taking ownership and growing their own, and I'm proud of them for that.
Excellent. Thanks for at least capturing that. You said on Conversation with Phil, you entered into the technology space, but it was almost like 6 years of getting into the technology with the new flat rate. So before we get into like the actual technology piece of the new flat rate, I want to talk about sales process more so than the actual tool. We will get to the tool, we will get to the technology, but the technology came way long after worksheets, spreadsheets, whiteboarding, flow charting, building out the process in the system. And I'm a systems guy. We love systems at Better Than Rich. That origin story was you whiteboarding this process out of why this was needed for technicians to get 100% close. The question on the table, it seemed like, how could we increase closing percentage for technicians or for the home services space? What is the origin of solving the problem? Where what was the process of whiteboarding? What were you split testing? What were you checking out in order to get to the end result, which is a 5-item menu pricing option, the 6 years before the technology came out?
Back in the day in home services, you've got guys and gals who are just trying to do a great job and fix problems and get to the next call and get home at a reasonable time to be with their families. And so the constraint was a lack of revenue. And we like to dial back to what's the constraint that's really the issue that we're trying to solve. And so with sales, any business, if your revenue is low, there's a lot of things you can do. You can cut expenses, but let's sell more, right? That's kind of the fun, quick answer is, well, what if we sell more? So in home services in particular, any services, hair, nails, right? If we're going to sell more, we can't just rely on the person. And so we had to go look at the process, what our industry was doing. And they were sending all these technicians to sales schools. They were sending them to all these places so that they could learn to speak perfect and have all this finesse and build all this great rapport with the customer and become the best friend. And some of them are really good at that. And we kind of identify there's about 20% of those superstars that really could do that. And then 80%, which is the majority, that was not organic for them. And so we needed a process to create an organic system that automatically increased sales, right? So the constraint really was that the lack of revenue. And so it was very difficult for contractors and for my dad. We felt that to have consistency in growth. It was feast or famine. Some Christmases, yes, we can have presents. Other Christmases, no, we cannot have presents. And it's that white or black. You either have the cash or you don't. Long story short is my dad downsized his business and, went from a shop and all these technicians to back in the basement and just with my brother. And so that your point was the origin story and the testing was, hey, we've tried everything else and now we're desperate. But then all of a sudden, my brother Matt began to be very profitable. He was $1 million producer that year, one technician alone. And so my dad's like, what is happening? And to be honest, it wasn't a bunch of testing. It was research of looking, what is Matt doing? And he saw, oh, on every service call, Matt is handwriting a bunch of options and letting the customer choose the level of service that they want. He wasn't trying to sell more. He wasn't trying to back them in the corner. He was just giving the customer choice. So then the split testing comes from there of, wait a minute, what else is going on in the world? Are consumers making choices everywhere else? At McDonald's, they're making choices. Driving down the interstate, which hotel should we stay at tonight? They're making choices. Home Depot, they're making choices. So why can they not have retail and make choices in their home as well? And so once we identify what it's about giving choices, so then, well, are there any patterns to these choices that we're giving? And so we began to look at all of these old invoices and find some patterns. And we created 35 pages of, hey, here's some menus, here's some options on these 35 pages. And can other people use this? We got some other contractors to test it, and instantly it proved that, wait a minute, we are onto something. This works. With sales, it's going back to is low. What's the current process, but where's the real constraint? Is it that your booking rate is only 50%, it needs to be 60%? Is it that your close rate after the booking rate is 70% instead of 100% or instead of 80%? What's the biggest constraint that actually will make a difference and increase the revenue in your business, no matter your trade, no matter what you're in? And that's what we began to look at is let's put a process in that constraint to solve the problem of not depending on the team to be able to always feel awesome and ready to sell. Once we identified that, created a process, then it was good night, Irene, which is something my old boss used to say, good night, Irene. And that's, hey, we got it, right? We're in high cotton as we've got a process that does the selling for the technician.
It was a great answer, Danielle. What I heard is you had someone that was having best practices. We shouted the person who was having like some success, and we wanted to pull out what were those best practices. And this happened to be your brother, but it's like, what were they doing? Oh, he was doing some option closing, drawing it on paper, creating a visual for the client for them to see, and then they could pick in a low pressure way. It's like, oh, okay, we could replicate that. And then it's like, what are the other best practices? How do we kind of compare this? You started thinking, well, menu pricing is all over the place, options all over the place. How could we like simplify this and bring it into the trades? We saw the problem, we saw the constraints, we solved it. And then let's look at some of the data. Which part of the sales process is creating the bottlenecks? Which part is influencing the closing percentage? Is it right at the point of sale? And also it could be in the qualifying process all the way at the start of the sale. Like, am I actually seeing qualified people? So it's like there's a whole sales cycle. And if I heard you right, obviously because the new flat rate is very much more at the end, the last point of sale, which is the closing, that's where you saw that there was the biggest impact is directly there with the customer. Let's increase the closing percentage, and that would be able to create an increase in revenue for these businesses.
Another piece of that process is, when do we ask for the money? So when you're thinking about retail, you walk into the store, you buy the product, and then you get to go outside in your car and open it. You don't get to open it in the store. And so in the home, same thing is, here's the options, here's the menu. Mike, what would you like today? And then you choose the level of service that you want based on your pain and your inconvenience level and what you really want. And 80% of the time when given choices, consumers buy more. So they move themselves up automatically with no sales pressure. You're going to buy more, and then fantastic. That's a great choice. Can we go ahead and take care of the paperwork real quick? Yeah, absolutely. Because the minute you go ahead and swipe that credit card or hand me that cash or that check or Zelle or however you want to pay, then you've handed me the problem. Now you can sit back and relax because your professional is going to take care of it. And now the professional doesn't have to worry about, let me go do a good job and then go back and make sure they like it and that they're going to pay me. It's already been paid. And so now you get to actually focus on what you do best, which is repairing, craftsmanship. And it can be in any service. This is what we're going to do. This is what you selected. Great. Can we go ahead and take care of the payment? And so that increases sales too, is taking care of that upfront, and you're not chasing people for money afterwards. There's so many companies that are like, wait, what? We could actually charge upfront, and it has changed the game in their accounts receivable because they're not chasing people that don't pay way later.
Now, obviously, this is mainly for the services, but there's also like the designs and custom builds and homes and kitchens and remodels. I want to make sure I'm explicit. What we're talking about today, only more for the predictable of the services, or is this also applicable to the custom builds and the remodels and the designs as well? I don't want to make an assumption there. I have my own hallucination, but can you just make sure that we're on the same page?
Service and repair or replacement or custom builds. Absolutely. It's the same, right? We don't have to overcomplicate it. You now naturally, let's say we're going to redesign an entire kitchen. We might have to spend some more time together. I need to know a little bit more about you. I need to know, where do you like to cook? What kind of foods do you like to cook? What kind of stuff do you need to store in your cabinets? We might need to know a little bit more information, and then we can design it. And you may not like that first one. You might like something else. But if we're talking about point of sale, want to show a menu, even on a redesign, even on an installation, show a menu and give choices. And how you do that is you say, all right, if Mike wants a new house, what is the absolute best I can give him? And that's how you build your top option. Is you think, oh, he wants it to walk in and absolutely turn on and have the perfect temperature and everything smart and everything that he needs. You build that into your top value. So if it's a water heater replacement, HVAC replacement, your top option is going to be the best that you can do. And then if they can't do that option, okay, great. What else could they do? And you build your menu starting from the top up. But short answer is yes, service and repair or equipment replacement, large jobs, small jobs.
This is great. Now, I want to get into one more high level, and then we're going to get into the tactical, the actual specifics of the new flat rate. We're both Hormozy fans. He says you want to increase the dream outcome, you want to increase the perceived likelihood of achievement, and you want to decrease the time delay and decrease the effort and sacrifice. That's how you create a good offer. So if we understand that's the big picture, how does someone in the trades keep that in mind when they are creating their pricing? Because a lot of the times what I have heard is they do not know how to actually price the jobs other than, let's just see what the competitors are charging, and I'll try to do something similar like that. So if we wanted to put our Hormozy hat on for just a moment, many people in the trades might not even know who that is, and they might not be thinking about dream outcome. Like you said, what do I really want? And the perceived likelihood of achievement, meaning this company can do that for me. Increase that, raise the credibility, raise the value as high as possible, and then decrease time delay. I don't want it to take a long time, and then decrease the effort and sacrifice. How much effort and sacrifice is it going to require of me in order to see like the success? When the hot top of the part of the equation is high and the bottom of the equation is low, that creates high value where it's an easier yes decision. How do you incorporate that into the menu pricing before you even figure out, like, I'm going to charge this amount for the thing? And in Phil Risher's episode, you said, yeah, 99-cent cheeseburger. Like, how do you come up with that first 99-cent cheeseburger as the example, as the baseline price versus just looking at whatever other people in the market is looking? Because profit margins is something that I think most people aren't thinking about. And that's what's on my mind. It's like, I want to cover my profits, but I also want to follow this Hormozy equation. I don't know if there is an answer here, but for someone with your expertise, I would love to hear you riff on this from your lens of whatever might come up for you.
Learn a couple things. Yes, people definitely call around and say they price shop. Like, what are their competitors doing? Well, they'll do it for $10, so I'll do it for $9. Like, no. And so it goes back to starting with the end in mind. What kind of company do you want to be? What is your vision? What is your strategy? Do you want to grow this year? Do you not? I love Matt Michelle wrote a really great book on pricing, and he says, you actually have to price as the company that you want to be, even if you're not that today. And you got to work your tail off to deliver that value by all means, yes. But if you are a smaller guy or gal and you're starting out, and maybe you don't have the best trucks and equipment, but you do want to grow and you want to be perceived as an expert in your marketplace, then yeah, you do have to sell those things, because you might not be able to afford it today, but you have to act as if, and then you have to deliver that extreme value. So that's one thing I think is really important, is looking at your strategy. And so many small businesses do not have a strategy. I did not have one for years. And so that's why I can speak to that and say, I get it. Like, strategy, what? I'm just trying to survive. Payroll, what? Like, I can't even. But by the time you're like, wait a minute, today I'm doing X amount in revenue. At the end of the year, I want to be here. Like, if we can just start there and then work our way backwards, because it is simple math. How many service calls do I need to do? Or how many, customers do I need to serve? So when we think of our growth, then to your point, how do you come up with the baseline? You can call around and see what other people are charging, but really I'd like you to look at your costs and what we call the billable hour is how much money do you need? How much do you need every day for it to be a successful day and for you to be able to start putting a little bit into the bank? And if we can put a little bit in the bank, we talk about a rule, the 5-5, the 10-10, the 20-20. And what we mean by that is, let's get 5,000 in our operating account and 5,000 in our savings. Let's get 10,000 in our operating, 10,000 in our savings. Let's get 20,000 in our operating, 20,000 in our savings. And let's start to grow and be able to take a little bit and put it into savings so that we can grow from a position of strength. And so with setting your prices in that 99-cent hamburger, that bottom, what is my basic price point that I've got to charge to show up and cover my costs? You do need to know what your overhead is and what your billable hour is and what you need to win the day. If you only need $2,500 for the day per technician or $1,500 a day per service provider, just know what that number is. So you can calculate what your rent is, what your insurance is. We've got some billable hour calculators. Reach out. We'd be happy to help you determine some of your costs for your starting points. But you do need to know what you need to make, right? And it's different than your competitors. So if you call and your competitor's like, oh yeah, it's $250 for us to come out, you might need $350 to come out. Your company is different. And so you're really losing by just saying, oh, let me see what everybody else is charging. You could be losing money.
I really love what you said, where it's almost like an activist, like price as the company you want to be. However, you must deliver on whatever the promise is. We're raising the dream outcome and the likelihood of achievement, and then decreasing the time delay, the effort and sacrifice. And then you just botch the job and you do awful service because you're going to have buyer's remorse. You're going to have pushback. You're going to have terrible reviews, terrible word of mouth. You can't really build a reputation or brand around that, but at least we have a North Star we're moving towards.
And what I do like too about what you said about time delay and the effort and the sacrifice is at the beginning, hey, we've got this dream that we want to do and we're going to do this dream job. You might not have all of the processes in place to decrease the time and all the things yet, but we can work towards it. So let's put some benchmarks in place. All right, we did that great job. We made this much money. It took us this much time. How can we decrease that for next time? And so we can start to put processes in place.
I have 4 questions in front of me. The first one that I want to talk about, I want to hear you riff on sales process for a new client versus sales process using menu pricing for a service visit for existing clients. So I'd like for you to talk about that, because a lot of the industry is doing maintenance visits where they get back into the home, and we don't want to just turn a maintenance visit into a sales presentation, but we do want to turn a maintenance visit into a sales opportunity. What is the nuanced differences and how are they potentially the same for a new customer and a pre-existing customer? Essentially selling them things that they don't already have, or you selling them on a wish list. What is the differences between the sales process and how you use menu pricing for each of those? And then I also want to hear you talk about this idea of decision fatigue and overwhelm with presenting too many options. I know you said that 5 is the sweet spot, and I'm sure there's science behind where you found 5 is the sweet spot, but I'd really love for you to back that claim up just a little bit, and how we don't fall into too many options creates confusion, creates overwhelm, and overwhelm creates indecisiveness where they can't decide, because now I actually created delay because they can't decide on the spot. So
we absolutely did testing on that. So if you go and present to your customers a good, better, best, the mind is automatically, and it wasn't me that came up with this, it was all kinds of researchers or economists, the mind automatically eliminates 2 options. And so what you're really doing is just giving them that one ultimatum. 5 fits on one page, so their eye can instantly glance and say, oh, good, I can afford to do business with you, but what level of service do I want? The mind's going to automatically eliminate 2 options, which leaves you with 3, and you want there to be a middle, because consumers like to have a safe middle ground. 60 to 70% do buy in the middle, which is fine. That's a great place for them to buy. It's moving themselves up and they get the level of service that they want. And so you don't want too many options on the page. Yeah, decision fatigue is a real thing and we all have it. You want it to be simple for the eye to glance and see, all right, I've got some choices. Good. Which one fits my budget and my need? And if your menu is actually good and made correctly, the customer will make a decision in 15 seconds or less, because you don't want the spread to be too big. You don't want a $10 option and a $10,000 option, right? It's got to make sense. It's got to be a simple spread so that people can move up easily.
So you mentioned that it's like a 50% bump from the low to the second low. If the first one might be, if the lowest, we'll use round numbers of $1,000 is a low, a 50% bump would be 1,500, or is that not an accurate formula for every price point?
That is a great place to start as you're testing your pricing, right? There are some things that you can't do 50% because the equipment cost is so great, it scales too quickly. And so you might have to play around with your percentages, but to practice building your menu of options, 1.5 times the bottom option, 2 times the bottom option, 2.5 times the bottom option, and all of a sudden you have a good, better, best. Take a look at it and make sure that the spread feels like somebody could climb that and start there. If it's too big, then make it a little bit smaller.
And the good, better, best is the good is the bottom and the best is the top. And then there's one in the middle, but then there's a buffer of one above and one below the middle. Is that essentially there's the good, better, best as the 3. And then the next 2, as far as your 5, are they in between those 2, or are the next 2 at the top to make it a higher appealing offer?
I can sit here and tell you that when I build a menu, I say that the good, better, best, sometimes I do put those as the top ones. But ultimately, the truth is that good does need to be the baseline. You don't want something below good. You want to be able to fix what they called you out there for today. And it's just the basic repair. It's not above and beyond. It's not all the bells and whistles. It's not all the extra moving parts. It's just going to get them up and going today if it's in service. Let's not go below that line because you do need to do what you said that you were going to do. If you were going to add 5, you could put them on top. It's going to go where it goes, depending on what you're selling and what your menu looks like.
And if there's not a perfect formula or perfect science for it, if we have the base, we know the good is the base. We know that 100%. And then if we built the best, the dream outcome, the full wish list, the whole shebang.
And it's not going to be the best. It's going to be the bestest best and the better than the best.
Correct.
To me,
That
best isn't the top.
So then if that's the bestest is the top, now we have a sandwich. Now there's a gap. So if we built our menu, then the next 3 are just going to be between the floor and the biggest and the best of the top. And then the 3 are going to be in between that. The other way of doing it would be it's a good, better, best. And then it's like, the top is a dream. And it's like, after I do my best option that I think for this client, let me just put a dream at the very top. And then I could build the other 2 or the other one. There would be one left that maybe I want to put in towards the bottom of the bottom and middle, or between the top and the middle. There's a few different ways of approaching it, but if there's not a perfect formula that's tested, then my mind goes to having a dream outcome on there is not a bad idea, because you never know if it's 1 out of 10 people that are buying that are going to go for that dream outcome. So having that on there is a really good option. So
I love the dream outcome. We see 10 to 20% actually do take it. I had a girlfriend call the other day, and she works in logistics, and they sell, think like boxes to companies like Target, right? So big logistics. And she's like, hey, could we actually have a menu? Well, absolutely. Do you have any, what do they buy from you? Is it recurring? What's the very best thing that you guys could do? Well, there's so many more services that we could actually do for them. Awesome. List that up top. So this isn't just in service. This isn't just in the trades. I mean, we're talking about a menu to major corporations, major companies. Yeah. What is the best that you can do? What is that dream outcome? And then, all right, what's the basic? So I like how you kind of sandwich it, but we usually just start at the top and then take away to get down. But whatever works for your mind is easier. And then you're going to test it and you'll get feedback.
Let me capture this one thought, specifically one in the landscape lighting. The dream outcome, just to make sure that this is captured for that industry as an example, would be you add on audio visual. We're adding on every single tree. We're adding on everything that the back patio, the pool, like everything that's in the home. But then the big piece of it is like gifts for other people, like holiday lighting. Like, hey, I know you mentioned your mom is like a little elderly and your dad's not going to get on that ladder. I'm going to put in the dream outcome is holiday lights for their home too. And we're going to give an allowance of $5,000. If you wanted to add it on, it's going to be valued at $7,500 to them, but you only pay $5,000. And I'm going to give them a $7,500 allowance that you paid $5,000 for today as in this dream outcome to have them have their holiday lights. And I just wanted to put that on there because you'd be spending a lot more, but just put that. So like really sprucing up and you just build that freaking dream outcome up.
So often, what do we as humans do? We prejudge. We show up at a home and we're like, oh, they have a nice car, they have money, or they don't have a nice car, they don't have money, right? We prejudge. You have no idea. You have no idea, right? And so what the dream outcome allows you to do is to say, hey, these are all the things that we could do. And even throw in there to add on to what you're saying, throw in there and I'll come back and I'll tighten every bulb and test everything, every couple months or once a year or every 6 months or whatever the schedule is. Maybe you come back monthly depending on what it is that you're doing, right? But you throw that in there. So don't worry, you don't have to worry about it at all. In this dream outcome, I'm going to make sure that we're recurring our services. There's so many opportunities that you can do there.
Kick it to the new client versus a service visit for existing clients.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure people are going to want to hear about the new flat rate, by the way. So we're going to leave time. Like I'm sure everyone, we already had someone ask, it's like, okay, well, how do I, where's that billable resource that you're talking about? Like that calculator, right? So we will make sure listeners stay till the end. Danielle will show you exactly where to go to learn more.
Yeah. When you start a new price book, in our minds, sometimes it might be easy to be like, okay, this is a new customer. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to follow my process and I'm going to show them this new price book and they can choose the level of service that they want. But my existing customers, I'm not going to do that because they're used to the old way of doing it. Well, Mike, I mean, I can't stand it when, let's say that you've got a friend that you're like, hey, they do such and such service, so I'm going to use them. And then you get there and they treat you like a buddy. They're like, oh, well, you're just my friend, so let me just do such and such. No, like I still want professional. If I'm going to get my hair done, I still want you to give me the good shampoo. I don't want you to jip me on that because we're friends. And it's so often it's easy as a service provider to think, oh, well, these are our existing customers. They already are used to our stuff. They already know. No, treat every person the very best, like a new customer that you have to win their belief.
Create a raving fan. You want to create fans. I agree.
Yes, but every time. And we do that with process, right? So with a new customer, all right, we're going to confirm the appointment. We're going to show up. We're going to knock on the door. We've got a script of what we're going to say, because you might need to actually say, hey, I'm Mike. What brings us out there today? Or you might need to say a little bit about your company for them so that they know who they're dealing with. So whatever, or maybe you text them a picture of you before you get there. So whatever that is, have that process up front. And then you're going to go and you're going to do the diagnosis if you're in the home. And then you're going to come back and you're going to present your findings and you're going to present the menu and you're going to allow them to choose. But you've got an existing customer and you're like, oh, I'm just going to go in, I know they just want the basic, the bottom. No, you don't know that because their situation may be changed since the last time. And you cannot assume, because you're doing yourself an injustice and them an injustice. And you're definitely doing an injustice to your wallet, because even if they've been a customer for 20 years, you maybe didn't give them that dream opportunity option ever before. And so you go to that existing customer and you be like, hey, I'm trying out a new pricing system. Hey, I'd love your feedback. Let me know what you think. And you follow the process and you treat them like they deserve to be treated, even if you've been there 1,000 times. And you show them the option. And then all of a sudden, oh, actually, yeah, I would like that premium service today because I know we've just been doing the basic in the past, but I didn't know you had that option. Great. So you've increased your revenue and you've created an even more raving fan because they are getting more value. Because the worst thing is when we treat people like, oh, yeah, we're just buddy, and then they don't feel like they're getting great service. And then you wonder, why isn't my friend using my services? Because you didn't treat them like the premium customer that they are. And so I believe that you need to identify and create that sales process and then use it consistently. And then something else you asked for is, what about if we're on maintenance, like it's a routine visit? How do we actually maximize the opportunities in that home? And it comes with scripting. Hey, Mike, I know we're out here to do the maintenance check today, and I'm going to test the performance and the safety and the mechanical systems to make sure that everything's running as it should and that your home is doing well. While I'm here, is there anything that's been making you uncomfortable in the home that you'd like me to take a look at? Or, hey, if I find anything in the performance, the mechanical or the safety systems that concerns me, do you want me to let you know, or you want me to just forget I ever saw it? Did you want me to let you know?
Let me know, please. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then I'll make sure and do that. So then I'm going to go on, I'm going to do my discovery and I'm going to do my diagnosis and I'm going to come back and, hey, I know that it's free today with your club membership program, so you don't have to pay a thing. By the way, I told you I'd let you know if I had any concerns. Here's what I found. I'm a little concerned because I found some problems over here in the mechanical system. And if you wanted to take a look, I've got some options for you. Here's a menu for that to take care of it. Did you want me to do anything about it? And then they're allowed to take a look. We had a contractor call the other day. They said that their maintenance visits, like for their club membership programs, which are free, go up, tune up, people are already in a thing, their average is $1,400 for these for these, for showing up and doing these. $100 average service ticket on these because they're keeping their eyes open. They're listening to the customer. Hey, has anything changed in the home? Is there anything that's making you uncomfortable? Oh, yeah. You know what? My son's actually not sleeping good right now. All right. Mind if I take a look? They're asking questions. They're finding out what's going on, and then they're presenting options. You can still present options and opportunity without overselling, even if it's on a planned maintenance call. And then customers can buy more. I don't want no low level service. Nobody else does either.
Yes, Danielle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love this. I built most of my Cutco business. I have over 1,000 people bought Cutco from me, and majority of that $400 or $1,000 or Cutco that I personally sold was to someone who bought from me initially or bought Cutco initially. I'm all about like the follow up and staying top of mind, adding tremendous value. And the kicker there that we didn't talk about today, but the kicker is when I would get back in the home, I would leave with an average of 7 new introductions on my service visits. Now, we didn't get there today, but stay tuned into the Better Than Rich show, listener. We'll keep jamming. How do you generate referrals? Because that goes under the lifetime value of each client. So it's like, yes, I got to help them buy more stuff, but then when they give me 7 introductions to other people, that still is maximizing LTV. So it's creating fans that want to give reviews and ratings and introductions and testimonials. And there's so much beyond just the one point of sale that we want to continue to maximize. You mentioned on Phil's episodes about a year ago, a little over a year ago, you implemented around January of last year, payment options. Do you have enough data at this point where you can at least riff on what the data is telling you about presenting a payment option or an investment plan compared to the paid in full?
Yeah, consumers are, it's not me. Some people have way more data on this than I do, and they're proving that consumers now buy based on monthly payments.
Okay.
And so when we offer, they are buying more. They are buying higher packages based on that monthly payment. So yes, when you can offer financing, when you offer payment plans, your closing rate does go up. Like I said, I'm not the expert on that data, but I do know based on what I've seen and what I hear is that your closing rate does go up and your average ticket does go up.
I know there's so much that we want to talk about. Oh, you're a mompreneur. You got 4 kids. I mean, your resume is so impressive. Top 40 under 40. I mean, like we have so many other directions that we didn't get to that I wanted to ask you about. AI, I mean, just so much. Was there any one part that we didn't get to that you're like, damn, Mike, I wish we talked about that today? Could we hit on that real quick before I ask you the final question and before we go to where people can learn more about you and the new flat rate and Freedom Builders University, what you're doing with Matt or anything else? Open floor for you.
I think we all need the reminder, and I do too, that less is more. Let's all simplify. It's easy to say yes, 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 yes. And, starting out as an entrepreneur, I used to strongly believe, and people still quote this back to me, I used to strongly believe that you have to say yes to opportunity. That, any opportunity, will you be on this board? Will you come to this club? Will you do this? Will you do that? Yes, 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 because you're trying to get your name out there. But there has to come a point where you slow down a minute and you're like, okay, what do we really want our business to be like? What do we really want our home life balance to be like? And let's start saying no to things and simplify instead of being all things for all people. What do we really do well? And let's maximize that. And let's simplify our lives a little bit. It gets a little chaotic. I'm loving summer right now because we're not all in the rat race of all the sports and all the schools and getting everything and all the traffic. Like, what can we do to simplify our lives and have a little bit more of that piece ongoing by not saying yes to everything? And sales wise, it can start by qualifying the lead, remembering, oh yeah, let's qualify that lead a little bit. Are they our target customer? Are they actually, is that what we do? If it's not, then maybe we don't want to go there.
You crushed it. Thank you so much, Danielle. Really appreciate you. We ask every guest before we end every episode, what does it mean to you to be better than rich?
I don't want a brag book. Better than rich is when you don't talk about the great car. To me, it's when we can be authentic humans and help people. I wanted to go into the poor part of our town. It's called Little Mexico. And it's like the projects in our town. And I wanted to go, and I told my husband, I know this is a little bit longer than you wanted, but I told my husband, I was like, hey, let's bring a watermelon to the playground there and let's start loving on all the kids in that community. He's like, okay, cool, let's do that. So Saturday on this day, we tell our kids, hey, we're going to go to this community. We want you to love on the kids and, play with them. And, we're going to bring a watermelon and we're going to share. And we didn't make it because a neighbor kid came over that day who I'd never met. It was difficult to understand them and all this stuff. And I was like, it really convicted me. I was like, if we can't love our neighbors, if we cannot be authentic with the people in our community right around us, in front of us, let's not try to be so showy. Better than rich is actually being that authentic human that cares about people, cares about our team, cares about our employees, our customers in a human, organic way, and becoming a better person and a better leader all the time before flaunting. That's better than rich to me.
Crushed it. I'm so grateful that we crossed paths. Like,
We are too.
truly grateful. Tell us about the new flat rate. You've solved everything we've talked about today. You have solved. You plug into these business owners, these home services businesses, and you say, I serve this menu pricing thing. You can figure it out on your own. Just hire us. We have the coaching side. We have the mastermind side. We have the technology and the tool side. We have it all figured out. Just let us show you how we solved it. Where could people learn more? Where could they stay in touch with you? Riff on that, please.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking. That billable hour calculator, if anybody's interested, shoot us an email, info@thenewflatrate.com. Our website's thenewflatrate.com. You can find us on social. You can find me on social and LinkedIn. And my email is Danielle@thenewflatrate.com. So definitely please do reach out. We'd love to get that to you or any other resources. And if you don't mind, follow our podcast too. We're starting to have more conversations. Mike was a recent guest, and I was listening to your episode the other day, Mike, and it was so good. I was like, oh my gosh, like I want everybody to hear it. So please go to the New Flat Rate podcast and listen to our episode with Mike. It was really good. Reach out, stay in touch. I'd love to get you any resources. We are a software platform that does price books done for you automatically for HVAC, electrical, and plumbing. And then we're building a new platform, the next gen, and it's actually rolling out in 6 to 8 weeks. We'll be in beta. And so if you want to beta it, let us know too. And it's going to allow anybody to have a price book on any platform at any time. Your lawn care, your windows, your garages. I'm really excited about it because it's just going to be so much easier, more intuitive, and the focus is on the technician so that they can do their craftsmanship and easily find prices fast and make custom edits right then and there, remove options, add options. And it's very dynamic, very AI driven. So that's coming out this fall, 6 to 8 weeks, like I said. So I'm really excited. Would love people to be on the beta for that.
How would they learn about the beta? Because this will be launched in a few weeks. So right around that, where would they go for that?
Yeah, so you can email me, actually, Danielle@thenewflatrate.com, and just say you want to be in the beta program, and then we'll get you first on the list to try out this new program to see what you think. You know, we definitely want feedback, and it's going to be self-learning, so it's going to learn based on what you do. And it's exciting times to be able to be in services and also with AI and technology. Like, this is going to be fun.
Congratulations on the launch and the new tech, and truly just so impressed by you. Each conversation I have, I feel better about life after a conversation. You really just do a great job at everything that you're doing. So keep that up. And listener, couldn't obviously have the show without you. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing, and look forward to the next upcoming episodes on the Better Than Rich Show podcast. And as always, leave today better than you found it. We'll see you next week. Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at betterthan_rich and join our Facebook group at The Better Than Rich Show. Thanks again for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, leave today better than you found it.